If you're pro plastic surgery, this video is going to bother you. In my opinion, plastic surgery is anti-feminist. I said it, but I know some of you have been thinking it, and I'm going to make it clear and simple why. Plastic surgery, purely for the sake of aesthetic reasons, is anti-feminist because it affirms the objectification of women and it puts her appearance and body on a pedestal. But before we get into it further, we have to define feminism. The Merriam-Webster dictionary says, feminism is the belief in and advocacy of the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes, expressed especially through organized activity on behalf of women's rights and interests. So, to reiterate, feminism is an ideology and social movement centered around women's rights that strives for equity and fair treatment. Personally, when I think about the history of feminism and its social movements, I think of a woman's right to speak, to consent, and to be treated as a person instead of an object. Frankly speaking, if it wasn't for feminism, I wouldn't be able to sit here in front of a camera, share my opinion freely, and then post it online for other people to see without being burnt at the stake. So, yes, feminism is important. And despite the fact that a lot of current discourse we see is around diminishing people who support it and what it does for us, I think it requires a certain type of ignorance and privilege to be able to tarnish it that way. Now, what does this have to do with plastic surgery? Well, in the West, it's a pretty normalized take that plastic surgery is pro-feminist because as it relates to bodily autonomy, it supports the idea that a woman can choose to do whatever she wants with her body. But here's my problem. The needle for feminism doesn't move an inch when you get your boobs done. All that happens is that your chest gets bigger at the expense of a bunch of money and multiple risks to your health. And it reinforces the idea that there can be something so wrong with your body in a purely aesthetic sense that has to be changed. Nothing pisses me off more than a beloved influencer getting work done and being fully transparent about it, but then following up with, this was a personal insecurity and I did it for myself, but that doesn't mean I'm encouraging it or that you should do it too. So it's okay for you to change this apparently defective feature about yourself, but if I happen to have the same feature, I shouldn't take your severe and permanent rejection of it as a sign that there's something wrong with having it. Western feminism loves talking about freedom of choice as if the ability to chase any high, regardless of how bad it is for you, is true liberation. But personally, I don't think there's anything liberating about assigning so much value to your appearance that you alter it at the expense of your own health, and that value fluctuates depending on the latest beauty trends. For example, right now, GLP-1 is taking off, and it's never been better to be a size 0 than right now. But where does this leave women who've gotten BBLs? Do they get them removed? Do they get them put back in after the skinny epidemic passes? And are we seeing the same level of extremism with men? Do you know any men under the age of 25 considering Botox? Because personally, none of my guy friends are, but I have plenty of girlfriends who've considered it. And I don't think there's anything feminist about that. We know that the cosmetic surgery industry largely runs off of a female consumer base. So there's nothing feminist about making this objectification of women more accessible and normalized, and operating it irrespective of what men are up to. In fact, that has nothing to do with equal rights. Furthermore, what guarantee is there that if you really do hate a feature of yourself and choose to have it changed, that you're going to be permanently satisfied? Because in the case of plastic surgery, it's your insecurities that win over you. And call it harsh, but I don't think there's strength or resilience in being controlled like that, especially when there's no guarantee of permanent satisfaction. I do want to make it clear that while I feel negatively about plastic surgery, my resentment isn't directed towards individuals who participate. Because the way I see it, this is a social construct that we're all tied to, and women are tested on their appearance on a daily basis. So some of us are going to end up choosing it, and that doesn't automatically make us bad people or anti-feminists. The beauty institution has everyone in a chokehold, and it requires a lot of strength and willpower to separate yourself from it with very little payout. We live in a world where, unfortunately, looks do matter and being pretty is rewarded. So I couldn't possibly lay blame at other women who choose to participate because life is easier when we do conform. But I do think it's important to understand that when we choose to participate, we are also helping to uphold the construct that a woman's value is in her appearance. Ultimately, the people who profit the most from beauty standards are industry owners and cosmetic surgeons who are predominantly men, while it's women chasing these standards that end up paying the price. And I'm quite certain that this has nothing to do with progressing the equitable and fair treatment of women. If you're someone who has regrets about plastic surgery or you have considered it but haven't had it done, you should know that you don't need permission from the world or anyone else to love yourself the way you are. And your value is so much bigger and beautiful than just your looks. It's the differences in our appearances that make us unique. And there's someone who looks just like you that has been loved plenty of lifetimes before. So I hope you can find love for yourself that's more than just skin deep, because my ideal version of feminism is one that accepts us as we are and takes our appearance out of the equation. And hopefully, this may have convinced you of the same, even just a little bit. Anyways, that's all I wanted to share. If you have any thoughts on the subject, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if this resonated with you, I hope you'll subscribe and come back for more. In any case, I will see you next time.